main menu, and see if we can follow this idea. Okay, so so open your main menu widget. So so what this is suggesting is, so the first course of business is the layout of the main menu, and you can follow the UMG UI quick guide if you need help creating a main menu. I'll jump to there because just so that we get right from the beginning, where you can see the adding a new widget, because we're adding a new blueprint widget. So this is going to be add new, and we're going to be looking at adding a user interface down here. So it's so we're going to add a UI, and then we can look through and follow it. Okay, so let's see. We'll follow this as it goes. It says, hey, okay, we're going to do we're going to add something new. So in here, I go to the content drawer and say, hey, okay, well, to the content, let's add, and scroll down, user interface, and widget blueprint. So I could add a font, which if you have a particular font that you want to add, this is where you'd create a new font and then upload the content of the font. There are, as you can see, lots and lots of things. You could go through each one of these talking enormously about what they are. The slate vector art data, these slate blush, slate vector, and slate are the slate way of designing things. So, but we're going to go with blueprint widget. And if we go have a look back, and I'll just make sure that I'm following the tutorial. So it says, now you see it only gives these two. Unreal 5 has the extra option, and it says pick that one, and in here we just go common user widget, and what we're going to call that is main menu. Okay, so it's going to say, hey, create two more blueprint widgets called main menu and pause menu. So what did it actually call that first one? Add a new, what did it call it? Two more. Oh, so pause menu, main menu, and HUD. Okay, so it called it main menu, pause menu, it called it HUD. So let's go back. They didn't say to call it HUD. So I've got one called main menu. Let's go and follow the instructions and go add a UI element widget, user widget. The user widget is extensible for users throughout the, so user widget, and we'll call that HUD. We won't worry about the, so HUD is for heads up display. We won't worry about the pause menu. We can, I'll let you follow that. So what we've got is what it's going to do is, for main menu, we have a level, which is the level you're playing on, and then we're going to have a level which is the main menu level. Now the reason it does that is because if you want to pause everything that's in the game and you want to go to a main menu where the game isn't running, you need to create a new level, transition from the game level into your main menu level. If you wanted a menu that rises up above the existing game and either has the game playing in the background or have the game paused in the background where you only have a modal window over top, that's not a change to a new level. That's just bringing up a HUD, but the HUD has the main menu on it, right? So these are design choices. This one is taking you through, showing you the level way of doing it. And so what we're going to do is jump in here and go create a new level in the content. And so we right click in content where we are and go new level, bang. And we're going to call that main menu. Main menu level. So everyone understanding this, following along? You're happy with this so far? I'm still recording this, so hopefully we'll break it up into chat parts. We'll make it work. Please jump in on Twitch or Discord if you have any questions as to what's going on. Then we're going to look at this in the content browser. The first person character is where, so it's saying in the content browser, the first look for the, this is first person blueprints. Blueprints. I'm actually doing this inside a third person. So in my content browser, I won't find that. I'll find third person. But, you know, we might as well show you what that looks like in here as well. So in the content browser, you can see I've got third person and then blueprints. Right? So now normally you'd have Quinn and Manny, but I've just got the Manny version. So if we have a look here, it says, okay, so you've got a first person character. Right, so here, this is the playable characters blueprint, which will create some information to pass to the HUD. So in our case, we have a third person character, and this will have the information that we can pass to the HUD. So for example, if we're going to add health, we could add it to the HUD. We could add time to the HUD. There are various other things, but this is going to show us how we're going to add a variable. In this case, it's going to be health, and we're going to add that to the HUD. So if we jump into this blueprint, down here, you can see we've got the animations. So this is that default kind of settings. It's not code. It is just numbers associated with this character. We can add a variable to this, and if you have a look at the, jump back to here, what it says is go to variables and then add a variable. So if we have a look here, where does it show us variables? Cameras. At this stage, you go variable and you click on variable, and oh, okay, so it's not going to let me do it while I'm inside that. So let's go down to variables. There we are. Those are, so these are events associated. So these are, so if you wanted to add events to the blueprint, that's how you add the events. What we're looking for is adding variables. Normally it's over the right hand side. Velocity, movement, where are we? Your motion. As you can see, there's a lot you can set about this character. Variable. Okay, so here we are. Variables. Okay, why am I not getting the same as it's saying here? I'll open in okay, I don't need to see diff. Normally I'd be able to just add the variable there. So, because you can add events here, but it's not showing. Okay, if we see this open full blueprint area, so I'll go to that. It'll open the full blueprint and it will add the variables here, which will have the ability to add a new variable, and we'll call this health. Right, so you have to, you can't just be in the minimized viewer, which is just basically the detailed viewer. You have to actually add it there. So add health as, and we won't have it as a boolean, that would be silliness. We will have it as an integer, and it will be visible so you can see it outside. Right, so this is now in this blueprint. There is now something called health, and it's visible. If we jump back into here, you can see now I've added a variable, and it's gone. That was the plus variable. they've said it's a float. I've got an integer. That's all right. And there's a default value of 1. If you're going to add a slider, a float would probably be a better option. So what we'll do is I'll change that to a float because it probably wants us to do a slider. And if you compile that, it says, yeah, you've successfully added that. And I'll go back to there, and we've got cool. No, people seem to be not having any questions. That's all good. So we then go through and say, okay, so they're also going to add energy. We'll just add a single one at this stage, and ammo as an integer. So they're adding various different types, and you've got a set default value. So down the bottom of that added integer. So what we want to do is when we have a look at health, you can see health, it has a default value and it's a float. So let's make that 1.0. Alright, so we've got, that's the default down here for, well, yeah, so just by me here, the 1. So it's, unfortunately it's right underneath me just here. So I've got to remember that's the bit of the screen that I'm obscuring when I'm overlapping. Now it's going into the blueprint and say, well, you know, when you begin play, if you create a branch and, you know, on event we create a HUD widget. We currently don't have, and it will need to know what widget to create. Right? So if we're going to create a HUD, this would when we would bring up a widget. You could attach it to any event. You wouldn't have to attach it to the begin play. You could attach it to you know, a key, press H, right? So you could have an event item that was H, which would bring up the HUD, and you'd toggle it on and off with a key press H. So do people want me to show you with key press H or begin play? Is there a preference? At the moment, it's going to be, if I have a look in here, it's saying, so Maximo, inside the graph window, which is this window here, it's suggesting that it would want me to add on the event begin play and add in these the branching of creating the HUD. Now, the reason why we created that HUD widget was so I can then drop down and say which HUD widget I want it to create. And return value I promote to variable. And here what we're going to do is actually go and set HUD reference to add to this viewport. Right? So this is what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, grab this thing. This is going to be a magic number. I'm not going to make this a variable. It's going to be just the HUD because it's going to start. So what we can do is when the player is created, all right? So if we have a look here, event begin play, this is when we draw out that item and we go create is it create widget, and I think I've got that correct. Create HUD widget. Construct, and we'll call it HUD. And so once I grab that HUD, it now says create HUD widget. And if we follow the instructions here, we've got owning player and HUD widget, and owning player and HUD widget, and we're going to do the return value. So let's go down here and we can see that we're going to promote that to a variable. So this return gets promoted to a variable. Oh, actually, if I go right click, promote to variable, and it's going to say, okay, well, that HUD, where should that HUD go? Well, that HUD, which is that new variable, is going to be called HUD reference, and I'm going to set, and it's going to go into, so we'll call this new variable HUD reference. So that's HUD reference, so that's how we name it by going down there. and then we're going to do add to viewport. Now, if you wanted to, you can change its visibility to move it in and out. If you've got clickable things and they're invisible, they can still potentially be clickable, I think. So you might want to add and remove, right? But at the moment, we're just going to have the HUD up all the time. So we're going to jump in here and use the add to viewport. So I go out here and go add to viewport, HUD reference, bang. So actually, so it's added to viewport HUD reference. That's not quite what I want, because it's adding the HUD reference and it's not actually grabbed it from this, which is the HUD reference there, right? So it's adding the, so I wanted actually that version of it. And if we have a look here, we've got now what looks like the same. If we have a look there, the Z order, so Z is how deep you are. So I can either overlay it or put it behind things. If I put it behind the whole view, that's not going to work. If I have multiple layers, so I have a HUD layer and then a menu layer that I want to be in front of the HUD, then I may have a HUD layer and then a menu layer at a different depth. So let's see what it says about depth, if it's going to... No, it's not going to say anything about depth at this stage. I think we leave it at 0 and we'll just see if that works. Okay, so we've now added that Z order, we've left that Z order at 0, which I believe is the higher the number, the more on top this widget will be. Let's set it at 1. Let's put it in front of things. So, because 0 is probably the same level as the game, so I wouldn't. Yeah, and then if you had a menu that you wanted to put on top of it, you'd put that at 2, and then on top of that 3, 4, and so each time you're getting closer and closer to the player and overlaying things. So that would be that HUD reference. Adjusting character variables. So energy, we have this energy set. Now they're using a jump command, and what do you do with jump? Well, it's going to, every time you jump, it will use up some energy. So they were going to set the energy lower, and when you pressed F key, so the same script for health variable, so they're setting up a, we're going to change that variable in game. So here it's using ammo to change the variable, and you're just trying to get the montage play. So it's going to play an animation when you fire things. And you know, when you've done all of this, right, what you do is you'd click finish step to say, haha, I did all of that and I've got an updatable thing. Now if you want to just add the HUD add when you pressed F or a different key, you can, or you know, if you hold down a key, you could have pressed and then release differently. So here this is F. What we'll do is I'll add an event on the player. So at the moment this player has, this is the third person character. So they currently have just a begin play. This is the on tick. But rather than on tick and saying, hey, check the F key, check the F key, check the F key, I can go add event key, and here are all the keys. Which key do we want? Z or Z? Ooh, okay. Let's add the Z key. Z key. So someone suggested Z or Z, depending on which culture you're from. Z is the English and Z is the American. So so this would be the pressed. When I pressed, let's make Z my decrease health, so I can do a subtraction on health. So let's go subtract. Oh, actually, the subtract is going to take two values in and change it by a certain amount, and then so what I want to do is set health. So set health. So this is the health variable from here. So this is just saying set health to 0. I probably want to actually have a this to be a value. So promote to variable. So now it's, oh, I didn't want to do that. Variable name. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I've created a new variable. So let's delete that. Oh, let's undo that. So I actually just want to change that bit rather than. So if I was to do this, it would be just setting it to a variable. I want to actually set health to a variable. So rather than set, let's go and follow what it says here, which is it uses the value, it has the health variable coming in and set health to. So we want to draw that back to a value. Right, that's all that is. So what we want to do is we'll just go up here. So this set energy 0, you can see we can draw it back, and it's going to set that, and we have the actual value in here, and that is a minus that it's doing there. So what I do is go set. We'll go back to set health again, and we'll do the set health. And that will set health to being, so I draw it into this subtraction. So one side will be health, get health, bang. So this would be health, and I'm going to set health to being what health was, which is what this is, and then subtract a certain amount, so 0.1. Right? So now every time I press Z, so press Z pressed, then I will do a minus 0.1 to my health value, and that will just set my health down. Now, if I was to run this and put a and watch this, let's see. If I press compile, it'll compile, and press. Let's see. Can I add a watch? Watch this value. So where is it? Okay, I'll stop that simulation, and let's just grab this and press play. Now at the moment I haven't added anything to the HUD, so it's not going to show anything, but what I'm showing here is if I add a watch to this, and let's see if I'm in here and I press Z. Right, I can press Z, nothing's happening because I can't see anything. So at the moment this should trigger, when I press Z, it'll trigger this and it will decrease my health by 1 and set that down. No, I haven't got that doing anything yet. So what I'd need to do is, you'd have an on tick. You could either have something here where it would check to see if the returned value was less than 0, and if it was less than 0, then you might do something like die or something. Or change something in the HUD, or reset my character, or do something after that set, and that would be going out to a branch, and the condition would be something like less than or equal to, and I'd have that value coming in as being one of the things, and less than or equal to 0. would go into this condition, and if it was less than or equal to 0, then I would do something like destroy actor. This would be terrible. I wouldn't want to actually do this because then my game ends without me actually being able to do anything. This is a bad idea. So you wouldn't want to do that. But now if I press play on here, I believe every time I press, so let's see, I pressed F 4 times. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, bang! When I pressed the 11th time, it then disappeared. Right? But now I've destroyed my character. I can't do anything in my game or my game has died. Right? So that's a terrible thing to do your game, is to have the game destroy the character. So don't do that. But you saw once I pressed 11 times, it actually killed the character. So that would be how you would. So that is the blueprint of doing that. What I want to do is draw that out and make this guy go full screen, bang, and make that go back full screen. Now I know I'm just over time now, but I want to get this finished and show you something in the HUD. So as I said, we've got a HUD reference. We have a HUD. If I jump to that, right, no, that's not how I get there. So what we're done with press this key. We're now going to jump into this. How do you display that? Right. So we've got something happening. So I've finished that step. Just displaying and health and ammo. So let's go to the open the HUD widget, and when we go and open the HUD widget blueprint, we're going to get this field, which will be the size of the background of the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to add canvas elements, right? Because we think of this as a canvas like they do in web development. So that's going to be a canvas panel, and then we can add things to it. So what we're going to do is jump into here and go back to our content drawer and say, well, we actually put that in here, this thing. All right, so I double click on it and bang, it's currently immediately grabbed me there. And you can see this is the top left corner. So 0, 0 is just there. And so why did I have to press 11 times? I might have miscounted, or the less than or equal to didn't quite get less than or equal to when I'd pressed it 10 times with -1. We'll give it another go. We'll show what's going on and we'll see what happens. Okay, let's try. It's worth wondering. Okay, so what we want to do is, this is the HUD. We're going to add a canvas to it. So common, we can add borders and buttons and checklists and all this. So if we go back to here, you can see that we've got this area and it's got the HUD but no other information attached to it. And in the diagram, open the HUD and exit the blueprint editor. That's where we are. And then from the panel, inside the panel, drag the horizontal into the canvas panel. So so horizontal box, canvas panel. It actually is. It starts with a canvas panel. We will just add a, let's see, well, we could add some text. So we could add the canvas panel, just to say, okay, we want a canvas panel, which will be, this is a panel that isn't the same size as the whole screen. This is just the area that we're writing in. Actually, that is the size of the current display. So this gives us a panel that we can see that is 0, 0 to the size of the screen. And then what we're going to do is add a, now we could add some text to that and just drag that in. Oh, sorry, I missed. Drag that and add that there, bang, and it creates wee text block, and that wee text block says text block 96, and if I, oh, that's, where is the detail of that text block? So I want to change its, there we go. Okay, my machine's just taking forever. So let's call this health. Now that text block now, oh, this is canvas. If I actually click on the text block, I've called it health text. And down here, if we scroll down the details, we'll eventually find the default value. So where is that text? Content. The reason you can't see it is because the content is so squished that it can't see, but let's call this health. Let's give the default context health. I've not bound that to anything, so now when I press play, oh, stop. If I save that and compile it, guess what's going to happen in the game? Any idea what's going to happen when we go to the game? Bang! The word health is now appearing in this top corner. Right? And you can see it sticks there permanently. So if I escape that and go back and go, okay, so that's going to draw in the top corner the word health. Let's just move it down a little bit. And now I want to have a slider next to that. And so what I'm going to do is I will grab... so what do they reckon? They reckon a horizontal box. Right, we can do horizontal box, and it's going to have two vertical boxes in it. And so, so they're doing a horizontal box with vertical boxes so they can have text blocks arranged in a particular way, right? And they're going to use progress bars inside these horizontal box that has vertical box which has two text things in it and another vertical box with two text things in it. So what they're doing is they're creating a layout here which allows them to not just have a single thing with a, because you see what I did here is I'm moving it in a fixed position in X and Y, which doesn't allow me to do kind of a nice layout thing. So what is actually nicer to do is what they're suggesting we do here, which is to use the horizontal box and the vertical boxes to arrange this thing next to this thing. So if I had more than one item, I could line them up nicely without having to move them all dependently. So if we go to panel, you've got a horizontal box, I can put that in there, and then that health text can go inside the horizontal box. But actually what they've done is they've grabbed a vertical box, because they've got two of them, and they put it there, and then they've put that inside the vertical box. So now you can see this thing is now, if I grab that horizontal box, I've got to grab it at the right level, I can move it out a little bit, so I'll move it just to there. If I was to add another vertical box, if I add it to the horizontal box, I would now have a vertical box, and this would have the health text in it, and I could add what it's suggesting is progress bar. So if I go progress bar, I grab that, I put that in that second horizontal box, or the second vertical box, which now, if I zoom into that, you can see it's got a tiny wee bar there. That's not going to be good enough. I need to make that much wider, which is what they're going to say here, which is, you can see it's got the same two tiny wee vertical boxes. We now need to take those and change their sizes and get them to fill and be much larger. So that's what it's suggesting we do here, and it's going to horizontally align and vertically align and fill. So let's go back to here and see that tiny wee bar is we want it to fill, and we want it to be, I'll just make sure I've got the settings right, horizontally and vertically aligned. So that's horizontally and vertically aligned. I've asked it to fill the space, and now one of the other things I want it to do is I want to get it to be wider. And so at the moment it's very narrow, so we need it to fill up more space, and I do that by dragging the corner of the box around it. So that is, I believe, that horizontal box. If I drag the corner of that, or is it this vertical box, and drag, okay, no, why is it not giving me the, where did I, okay, so I just needed to force it to give me, now I need to put that inside the, there you go, drag that out, okay. Right, so that I had to tell the vertical box and the progress bar both to fill. Right, so that should be fine. Not the vertical box. You've selected the progress bar. Yeah, so not the vertical box. Now I've selected the vertical box. I've actually got that vertical box is now filling out to the size that this horizontal box is. All right, so if I change that, it'll change that size. So now I've got this big bar. So what we've got now is a horizontal box which is filling out to the space. They do two boxes, and here the text is health, and I've already set the text for the text block one, and they're going to change the color, and they're going to give me an ammo thing in the top corner. You can go through that. Now these anchors tell you where to put things, so you can anchor it to the top corner, the left top corner, the right top corner, those sorts of things. So here you want to anchor that to the right top corner and have it down this big star thing, which is what you see when I go here. This big star thing is where this is anchored, right? So these are all done internally, but the canvas panel, or rather the horizontal box rather, at this height is saying that's where my anchor point is. When you want to anchor to the top right corner, you have to make sure that this anchor point is set over the top right by using these anchor points. We'll skip over that. This last one, this is where we set the value. We go back to the graph designer, and here is where we're going to look for the player character, get its value. On the construct, we're going to set up a connection with that player character, and we're going to use this thing called binding, where we bind a value, or we bind two things together. Because what we want to do is bind the value in the character health to the progress bar. Right? So that's what this process is going to do. So we're going to add that functionality. So click on the graph in the upper right corner in the blueprint widget. So we're in here, we're in this blueprint widget. We're going to go up to the graph icon directly above me here, and that gives us these event construct, which is the one that it's saying, hey, on the construction, attach that progress bar to the player widget. So if we have a look here, it's going to say event construct. First it's going to go get player, and then cast to first person player character. Now this is third person player character, so we're going to cast it to third person player character. But if we go here and we go get player character, bang, so that's the player character we're getting. Again, see get player character here, and we're going to cast that. Instead of casting the first person, we're going to cast a third person because we're in the third person So cast to third person SM character. See that we've got that up there. Let's see if cast to first person character, third person character. The first person SM is because that's what I call the project, is first person small, because I hadn't added the other content to it. So that's this is the name of the character class that it's constructing it to, and the object is the player. All right, because this class is the class within this project for a character. So that's why it wants to cast it. So it's not just a generic player; it's a player in this game. And as first character, set my character. So here it's wanting to go set. Now, the reason why it doesn't have my character is because I haven't set my character as a variable. So what the reason it's asking you to do this is that because it wants to be able to have use the health of my character to set these. So my character dot energy and my character. So in an object-oriented language, you need an instance, and you then have the variable within the instance. So you use an instance dot the thing. And so what I want to do is create a variable. Now I think, did it actually promote to variable? Okay, so to drag off the first person pin and then go promote to variable. So that's saying as third person character promote to variable. So there we go. That's the thing it says, because then this sets as third person character, but if you look here it says set my character, so it's wanting this to change to here variable name is not as third person character. What we want to do is call this something simpler, so we'll go my character. So that is now set to my character, because this is the details of that variable that I just promoted this to a variable. So that was what that happened there. And if we go through, we've set that. We can now click compile in the script, and in the designer we return to the designer and the progress bar next to health. So what we're saying is I've now set something called my character by grabbing the on construction, find the character, cast it to a character variable, and set it to this local variable here that I can see. And that will, if I compile, which will also save it, I'll be the save just in case. So I saved that. It's saying go back to the designer, because now what we want to do is we want to connect this progress bar that I have up here with, I want to bind that to my character dot health. Okay, so how this works is that we go back into here and say, okay, go back. It says, go back to the designer, and in the designer under the progress click bind. Right, so we're going to bind it to percentage. So you'll see here that we have the details of the progress bar. This is the progress bar that we set, and it's called progress bar 101. And if we scroll down, you'll see this bind here. So it's percentage 0, but I actually want to bind it, and now I've got this my character just here that's been set, and it says bind my character. Which of the my character things do you want to bind it to? And if we have a look, we have we don't need the camera room, we don't want photo camera, we don't want the mesh, character movement, no, character capsule, no, jump key hold, okay, why didn't, does SM character have the health? Have I actually changed it to the right third person blueprint character, because third person blueprint character has health, but BP third person character. Right, no, you're right. Thank you, Discord. I think I've cast it to the wrong value. So if we go back, oh, actually, I also hadn't saved that. Now I've saved it and compiled it. We'll just check to see if it was unsaved, and that's why it hadn't found the binding character. My character, but it doesn't appear that my character has had that bound to it properly, because it's what I've done there is I've cast it into the wrong type. So here, because this third person SM character appears not to be the right casting, so let's grab this and go cast to BP third person character. So BP third person character was the actual one that I was editing. So I was editing BP third person character because that's what it had been called. And because if you have a look here, it's called BP third person character. So that was the one I was editing, not the SM character. Not cast failed, I want cast success. And cast failed will go break link. There we go. So now actually, now I'm casting it to the right thing. So thank you for the Discord waking me up to my, and then I have to compile, because that way the third person character will have actually found, so the HUD now will actually have the right thing. So now if I go back to the designer, sorry, I made a mistake. Now if I go back here, I can go to bind. My character will magically have, I was hoping, okay, well, let's just see if I can get percent return value. Third person character, yep, that should be a third person character. And if I get my character, and let's go okay. So let's still say third person SM character. Third person SM character. Ah, you're right. So let's Control Z. Let's not do our own binding. BP third person character. Get player character. BP third person character. Set my character. My character, variable type my character. Okay, compile, designer, progress bar, here we're in the progress bar, bind, my character, do I need to reset? Because it could be that having set it once, it gets set, and sometimes you have to close things and then reopen them for it to wake up. So the question is, has it set it permanently to those two things? The answer will no. Sometimes it just gets it gets cached as a value, and so it forgets to refresh, and sometimes you close the whole thing. I think there is a way, and I've forgotten what it is, to force it to re-merge, but that's the HUD. And if I go to the graph, the designer, let's see, if I go to my character, variable type. Okay, so I'm going to change this variable type to being VP third person character. Change variable type. Okay. Right, so that, I think, blue person, yeah, so that's what I had to do. I had to actually explicitly tell my character, because when it got constructed, it said, okay, when you promote to a variable, it was promoting to variable from the thing that it could see. And so that's why it promoted to a variable and cast and made that variable the same name as the thing it was promoting to a variable. So the other way would have been to go back to here and then dragged off a new one of these and drag that off into and promote to variable, which then would have been a blueprint character variable. Okay, so that was my problem, is because I had created the variable and given it a type. When I promoted from variable, that's when it got its type definition, and so changing this thing didn't change the type definition of that thing. So that was the problem I was having. Sorry that took me so long to work out. If we compile that, now if I go back to my designer, now I should be able to grab this, go bind, go my character, and finally, sorry, have health. Right, so now that I've bound it to health, I've now done that binding, and then they bind the others, they create binds, they grab. So this one is they're showing you how to not just directly bind, but bind with a target and return a value that's a text node, for example, so you can go through and play with those. And now we have an energy and health bar. So let's just see if I go back, and that way I can quickly finish this. So if we go back to our actual game, so that's solved, and I take that down and we go play. Aha, you can see now I've got a blue health bar up the top there. Yay! And I can run around, but because I've decided Z is my self-sacrificing button, if I press Z, you can see that that progress bar is now going down. My health is going down every time I press Z, and apparently it doesn't, at 0, it's still leaving you around. Maybe I need to make that 0.001. When I press one more time, it's now gone down. Oh, I didn't destroy the character anymore. But you can see that my health has now come down. Okay, so that is binding a health bar. This is a HUD here. At the moment, we are just directly attaching this HUD element to this player character. So that character creates the HUD, and then it follows this character around. If I destroyed that character, if we escape, I think if I went back to that HUD display and actually did the terrible thing of destroying the character, remember I said don't ever do that. Or rather in the rather than in there, actually in the third person. Where I pressed the -1. So if we just go to the content drawer and in third person character, blueprints, third person character. In this one where we got down to less than or equal to 0, if here I destroy the character and destroy a actor, and if I destroy myself at that point, which is a terrible thing to do, I think my HUD will disappear as well. So let's have a go at that, and we'll minimize that, and I'll run around, and you can see now Z, 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 Z. Oh, it didn't destroy that, it just destroyed the actor. Okay, but you can see that that now works. This is a that you wouldn't want to do that. You want to do something else. You want to jump to end game. Now, remember when I created the level, what that does is that then allows what you do is in later settings is you're able to skip between levels. So if you, that's a HUD, which is overlay, but if you want to go to a main menu, you make it change level, right? And so that that level change is is what you have. Where does it show the level change? Creating main menu. So if you go to the creating main menu, you'll find that what it'll do is, having done that with all these canvas things, you'll then create a whole bunch of buttons. You can create sliders which interact. So all these canvas elements, you then create a large menu, and when you jump in, you have play game options buttons. And in the blueprint, what it'll do is, if we scroll down here, you can see these on-click events. When you click the play button, it's an on-click event. You can see on-clicked play button has been added here. So when I drag off on-click play button, it will go open level. Right. So the idea is you create a main menu, and that's the start level of your game. You then, when you press the play button, it opens the level, which is your example map, your first play map, and you remove this from the parent. So you start the new level and you move the main menu, right? So that's what this is. That's what that does. And when you pop up the Windows menu, it changes the visibility. So you set to hidden and visible when the main menu option pops up over top of the game. Right? So the option menus pops up. The main menu is a load level, and what you could do is, when the person died, you would open level main menu rather than open level game. Okay, so in here, if I drag off and did an open level by name, and I could have a I thought I had a main menu. Okay, so I thought I'd created the main menu level, but this would be the open level by name, right? So you'd open the level, and if you you could have I think I called it main menu, but it would it would immediately jump me back to the main level. You probably don't want to do that. You probably want to open up a HUD, say you died, and then have it, after some length of delay, then go to the main menu. Okay, so you don't just immediately flick the main menu, because that's a bit harsh. But this is the idea of you opening levels and moving between levels, between the main menu level and the HUD level. And in the main menu level, you do the same thing we were doing with this HUD, except now, instead of in the designer you leaving it mostly blank, you put a big screen over top of it, right? You put a big background that you're going to show, and then you have your buttons put in the center here, using center aligns rather than falls and those sort of things. Okay. Okay, so If there are no other questions, I know that's now 2 o'clock. I've got to go and prepare to fly up to Wellington if I happen to be able to still fly to Wellington. Good luck with that. I will stop recording and we'll see you on Wednesday.